Freddy Krueger is known for many things: his wit, his charm, his glove with knives for fingers, and his kills. I'm here to talk about the top 10 best kills by Freddy Krueger. Starting the list off at number 10, Dan feels the need for speed. This comes from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. And I admit I don't care for this particular film, and I don't even think that Dan should have been killed in this movie, but the death itself is still horrific. You see Dan on his motorcycle trying to drive to Alice to save her. He falls asleep, and so Freddy turns his motorcycle into a death trap, into this thing that's able to transform Dan. And seeing the practical effect, Freddy is talking trash and laughing at him the whole time. Of course, he crashes to his death as Alice has to watch him burn alive. Number 9, Joey gets waterbedded to death. This is from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, and Joey is another character that probably shouldn't have died. He is a survivor of the third film. He carries over here, and sure, this is true to his character. He does have the hots for older women, so it makes sense that Freddy would use this against him and give him, as he pointed out, a wet dream, having this girl in his waterbed, and then Joey's mother finding him somehow stuck in the bed and drowned. Number 9, Mark becomes Freddy's messenger. This is from Freddy vs. Jason, and Freddy doesn't have a whole lot of kills in this movie, but the one that does stand out is this character Mark, who his brother committed suicide, so Freddy obviously uses that in the dream world and possesses him and takes the form of him, and it's really, really disturbing. Then Mark's friends, our main characters, witness this from his window, and they see him being thrown around the room. They don't see Freddy, but they see Mark. His face gets slashed. He gets a tattoo burn mark on his back that says Freddy's back. Freddy uses this to make our characters aware of him, to make them scared, and thus make him more powerful. At number 7, Taryn overdoses. In A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, Taryn was a character who did have a drug problem, and she was trying to overcome that. She became a rock star, essentially, but Freddy didn't care. He brought out those needles, and he opened up the sores on her arms, which still gives me the heebie-jeebies every time, and he just drams them into her and screams out, "What a rush." She never had a chance. At number 6, the babysitter, Julie, gets the original treatment from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. When I say original treatment, I'm talking about what happens in the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie, one of the most memorable kills with Tina. But before we get to her, he recreates that, Freddy does, with Julie. And this is almost as disturbing because this is in front of a child. Our main kid has to watch this woman be dragged along the walls and along the ceilings, and she's reaching out for him for help. He can't do anything about it. This is also more disturbing because you get to see Freddy and see him do it, and he's a lot more dark in this movie. Coming in at number 5, Debbie has a really bad workout session in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. The practical effects on the moment when Freddy breaks her own arms and her arms are hanging from their limbs. But then as she's trying to run away, her arms fall off in order to reveal bug arms underneath it. And she's running and running until she realizes that she's trapped in a roach motel in a bug trap, and her face gets stuck to it, and her face comes off, and she becomes a fully formed bug, and then Freddy squishes her like a grape. At number 4, Jennifer gets welcomed to prime time. In A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, Jennifer was a character who always longed for showtime. She begged Lawrence Fishburne to let her stay up and watch TV. She didn't want to go to sleep. And I loved the idea that Freddy not only used the TV to get to her, but I love the moment where Freddy pretends to be Johnny Carson and goes after Zsa Zsa Gabor. Just one of those things that I'll never forget that. But then when she walks up to the TV to see what's wrong and he grabs her, his head appears from the TV and he screams that infamous line, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." That's when you knew that Freddy was here to stay. That's how you knew that Freddy just became a Hollywood icon. Number 3, Philip becomes a human puppet. This is also from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Philip was a likable character, a smart aleck, and just somebody that you wanted to see survive. But of course, he's one of the first to go, and he turns Philip into a puppet. He somehow drags the veins out of Philip's arms and legs, and how they made this look as real as it does, I'll never know. And just being forced to go up to the window and get his veins cut by Freddy, who's laughing along as he falls to his death. Number 2, Tina is dragged across the ceiling in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Honestly, this was almost number 1. This is so good, not just because Tina looks like she's the main character in the beginning of the film. We first meet her. We meet her in her dreams with Freddy. And then this last dream, she just can't escape him. And her boyfriend, Rod, just so happens to be there. Of course, he has to witness her death. But it's more freaky because there's nobody else in the room. She's freaking out in the bed. She gets lifted and dragged along the walls, dragged along the ceilings. This is the first time you ever saw something so elaborate, so intricate. Wes Craven being able to come up with this type of idea, something that you've never seen before. And every time they've tried to recreate it since, it hasn't been as impactful. Number 1 for the best death by Freddy Krueger, Glenn. He gets sucked into his bed in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I love this one, not because it's played by Johnny Depp, although that does make it a little trippy. But hey, we've all been there. We've tried to stay up to watch something on TV, and we fall asleep. And then Freddy's arm comes up, and then Glenn, poor Glenn, starts to get dragged into his bed. But all of a sudden, this pool of blood shoots up from his bed up into the ceiling. You don't know if that's Glenn's blood or just blood from all of Freddy's victims from the depths of hell. And then his mother comes into the room and sees all this happens, and she's horrified. This is one of the most disturbing death scenes that I've ever seen in any film, strictly because you don't know what happened. It's all in your head. It's all up to mystery. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my top 10 kills by Freddy Krueger? Do you agree with my list? What's your number 1 favorite? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!